A lot of salespeople come at this is what I want to sell versus this is what I want to solve.
Yeah.
And I love your approach and the way that you're thinking about this is, let's first start with what is their pain and then see if we can solve it.
Welcome to the Making Sales Social podcast, featuring the top voices in sales, marketing, and business. Join Bryn Tillman and me, Bob Woods, as we each bring you the best tips and strategies our guests are teaching their clients, so you can leverage them for your own virtual and social selling. Enjoy the show.
Today on the show, I am so excited to welcome Michael Brower, the Chief Revenue Officer at Honor Roll. With over 2 decades of leadership in the sales arena, Mike has honed an exceptional understanding of client needs, market challenges, and the intricacies of solution selling. Known for his strategic approach, Mike emphasizes a robust discovery phase on the outset of the sales process, setting clear and simple expectations to manage and meet. His methodical approach has enabled him to implement a repeatable and predictable sales process, which, by the way, is the most important part of sales, is predictable and repeatable. Right. Which has significantly contributed to accurate revenue forecasting. Also, a very underrated and very important part of sales is forecasting. So I'm excited to talk about that. So Mike's expertise extends across sales management, market analysis, and competitive strategy, making him a beacon for professionals aiming to excel in revenue-driven roles. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to connect with you.
Oh my gosh, I am so excited to dive into all the things that got you to where you are today as a CRO. Before I do that, though, we ask all of our guests one first question, which is, what does making sales social mean to you?
Great question. I think of 2 things immediately to that question. The first, I think true social media. I think about the expansion of channels and meeting buyers where they're at. And I do believe having a social media strategy, having an idea of where your marketplace and what social media platforms that your marketplace leverages as the stakeholders you're trying to sell to is crucial, which is different than even a decade ago. The other piece that comes to mind is sales is meant to be fun, and salespeople are social creatures, and so being able to create that team and that social fiber amongst the team, in particular, the challenge of being a more remote distributed workforce has been something I've been pretty fixated on over the last 3 or 4 years as well. So a lot of evolution in both of those areas, without a doubt.
Oh, I love that. And I love that making sales fun. It is fun, especially when we're out there solving problems for people, right? I love that. And that may be in our show one of the first times I've heard the fun word come out. And I think that's my favorite because we've got to love what we're doing, right? I think that's awesome. So thank you for that. So, in learning about you, I've read a lot about how you've built a really strong reputation for understanding deep market and client needs. Share a little how this focus has shaped your approach in sales leadership.
Yeah, you bet. Back in the beginning of my journey, I remember having some type of sales class instruction, and it was around human impulses and leveraging impulse buying. So the traditional takeaway and get somebody to reach for it sort of thing, being indifferent and using all these kind of human impulses. That to me was very basic sales tactics and techniques. To me, really getting and crossing that chasm into having a deep, deep understanding of who you're selling to, what their real problems are or goals are, what are they searching for that provides them value. All of that has led to implementing a sales strategy and process that is really heavy on the front end of discovery. Being able to go deep in understanding what truly is that stakeholder trying to solve for, or what pain are they truly feeling in their day-to-day professional life, that you hopefully can bring a solution to bear that helps solve that pain or helps drive that goal that they're trying to accomplish. But it's really on the front end, and that deep discovery is what I think is critical and sometimes missing in a really strong sales process.
So I think that's really important. A lot of salespeople come at this is what I want to sell versus this is what I want to solve.
Yeah.
And I love your approach and the way that you're thinking about this is, let's first start with what is their pain and then see if we can solve it. So I think that that's a really important perspective. So thank you for that.
You
So
bet.
you started your career, it was at Learnin Tree Greeting Cards, is that right?
Lean in tree greeting cards. Yep.
Oh, Lean and Tree. My notes, I apologize.
No.
Lean and Tree Greeting Cards years and years ago. Tell us a little bit about how that inspired your sales career.
Yeah, I was, and by the way, this is something I'm always very fixated to pay forward. I was hired there. My wife and I moved from Chicago to Colorado. Needed to get that first job, and so I get this sales job, inside sales job at a greeting card company. The leader of their sales organization, Donnie Zwizzler at the time, just really took me underneath his wing. And that's where I began to cut my teeth in sales leadership. His focus on building long-term partnerships with sales professionals, treating people with respect, listening, all of those types of foundational leadership qualities I learned directly from him. And based on how he would talk about sales leadership and how to lead people, it just became something that I gravitated towards and became very passionate about. But it was because of that great mentor very early on. So I probably in the first 9 to 12 months, I was promoted to my first sales leadership role, and then that started to expand and so on. And that was the beginning of my path in revenue leadership.
Yeah, I love that. I still look back at my first couple of mentors, and I think, where would I be career-wise had I not had that? So I love hearing from you that, a lot of this inspiration came from good leadership, right? So it's like good parenting leads to good parents, good leadership leads to good leaders.
That's
So
right.
I think that's so fun. So you've been on this journey for a little bit of time now. And I am sure you've seen huge shifts. Now, I started at Dun and Bradstreet in an inbound call center.
Yep.
And 2 years in, we got email. And I remember sitting in my manager's office going, how do you expect me to put this into my day? I'm so busy
Right.
already. You want me to do this? You want me to spend time on this? I don't have time for this email thing. Actually, it was called
Yep.
CC mail at the time. It wasn't even email, right? So, I mean, I remember that experience. So I think you're probably a similar generation as I am. I don't want to
Yep.
assume it may
Yep.
be. Tell me a little bit about what you have seen from an evolution perspective in sales and technology, and just a little bit about kind of what you've seen and what you love and even what you don't love.
Yeah, no, you bet. You bet. So it's one in the same, what I both love and it frustrates me. So back when you and I started on this journey, there was no tech stack. The go-to-market tech stack was a CRM, typically on-premise installed, right? This is before Salesforce really drove
We
that
had
cloud.
Goldmine.
That's right. Oh man, if I could go back and know what I know now back then, right? So your tech stack was both the CRM, and if you happen to have your phone somehow tied into the CRM, that was mind blowing, right? And that was it. That was literally the tech stack. So how that has evolved over the last couple of decades, and the on the positive side, the tools at our disposal, the ability to be so much more efficient, to be able to gain access to data and insights, and to be able to build a call list and just dial out, launch business development campaigns, and so much of it automated in the background. All of those pieces. And now with the introduction of all of the AI powered tools that are starting to emerge, I love it, and it's hard to keep up. It's kind of like I had a very similar experience with the first time I had a inbox for email and saying, how am I going to stay on top of this and everything? Staying on top of the evolution of the tech stack of in go to market is challenging to say the least.
It is, and it's exciting at the same time, right?
That's right.
I remember, so they're now 22-year-old twins, but I remember we had a very successful year. So we had a very big Christmas. And I remember my boys staring at all these presents that they weren't used to getting. They're
Yeah.
less and they go, where do I start? And they were like 4. Like they just didn't even know how to start. And sometimes I feel like the tech stack is this, oh my gosh, where do I go? Which present do I open first? Right? Like it's so
Right.
cool and scary and exciting and overwhelming. And so in Honor Roll where you are today, how are you bringing in some of these? Where do you start? I guess that's my question. How are you deciding what tech to explore?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I wish I had the silver bullet answer. I will tell you, coming into Honor Roll Series A stage company, really what we focused on was implementing a foundation all around that repeatable and predictable sales process, and how we get the data to show that and leverage to be able to predict. So that's been really step number one. I think step number two, we'll start to lean into the tech stack. And as simple as this sounds, the very first problem that I want to solve for leveraging or evolving the tech stack is how every person involved in the customer journey, from business development through our customer success and support teams, how everybody can see the same information in real time. So how does the customer success or the customer relationship management platform that they're leveraging talk seamlessly to the CRM that the sales team is leveraging, how they see that data in real time, how anybody involved in the customer journey is leveraging the same source of truth. All of that is kind of step one. And I think alongside of that, and I don't know the answer yet today, but I've just begun the quest, is where can we start to incorporate tools that AI is the engine behind it? I've been picking the brains of a number of CROs recently over the last month or so, and just trying to understand the landscape of what they're seeing. Where are they starting? Why are they doing that? Who are the companies within the space that are most important to check out? So I'm just beginning that journey, but I think it's important to leverage that cutting edge technology, even if it's just starting somewhere, even if it's just incorporating a tool that leverages AI, that helps drive some efficiencies, That's it's like it's the old adage of boiling the ocean. Like I think about it and I get overwhelmed. Ultimately, it's
Mhm.
breaking it down to where is the place we can just start. And that's what we're fixated on right now.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I love the curiosity. I think that's the key. You know, when you're staying curious and you're talking with other CROs and you're just open to the learning, that's where the success is going to come, right? Like when
That's right.
when we're like, you know what, we're good where we are is where there's often a challenge. So the fact that you're just curious and open and learning is going to have a huge impact on the success of your role in the company. So I love that.
Yeah.
Um, so, you know, in your role, it seems as if you're working very closely with marketing, finance, HR. Like even though when I think CRO, I'm thinking sales and marketing, but you really, I guess, as a funded startup, I'm sure that, that you wear a lot of hats, right? Because that's
That's
just
right.
kind of the way that it is. But talk about how do you communicate and how do you have these conversations and collaborate with all these very different roles, even though all of them, all of us, I'm already part of your company. No, I'm kidding. Um, Even though all of them have the same really goal is to drive revenue, but from very different perspectives, right? So
Yeah.
talk a little bit about how you collaborate with these cross-functional leaders.
Yeah. No, that's a great question. Earlier in my career, and I think this is the difference of where you place your ego as a revenue leader. So earlier in my career, I believed in this old adage, he who brings in the gold or she who brings in the gold rules the world sort of thing. And so I almost viewed it, and this was all ego and immaturity. But I almost viewed it that the CFO, the head of HR, the product and engineering teams, all of that, they almost needed to hold court with me because I ran revenue. Well, the result of that was ineffective relationships. The result of that was poor communication, and that creates a dysfunctional environment. I actually, over the years, have realized that a CRO, if they're curious, humble, and really care deeply about building authentic relationships, that your most important partners in the business are the other functional stakeholders. And so it's about learning from them, and you're also in a very unique position that you as the revenue leader can also be the glue of how that team, that leadership team communicates and how you align to the initiatives that are important and what are you saying no to as an organization and a leadership team and where are you making the investments and the bets. And if you do that in partnership with all of the other stakeholders, the business moves forward quicker, more efficient, and more cohesive. And so all of that being said, I believe deeply in the word partner. I believe that the finance team they are my finance partners in this business. So I have to provide as much, if not more value to what they do than what I need to take in return. That's the same with the HR leadership. That's the same with the CEO. That is my business partner. Whether it's the head of engineering, the CTO, the product leader, we looking at that is your team of partners to help continue to evolve the strategy of the business, make sure that the communication is very clear and flowing, and doing that without ego can be really, really effective.
That's an interesting perspective, and I love that you're putting in without ego because sales, actually, most folks in an organization bring their ego because we think that people are motivated by money, but mostly primarily they're motivated by attaboys, right? Like
Right.
you're the greatest, you're the best, you rock, right? And so the egos are so important. So I love as a leader when you can come in this and just pack the ego and just say, look, we're here all for the same goal and we're going to communicate and work collaboratively to meet that goal, I think is so powerful. And I think it creates such a healthy culture.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And culture is so incredibly important. That's the other piece, I think has been an evolution in an area that I think far differently about today than I did 10 or 20 years ago. What type of culture can people thrive in? What type of culture is clear on expectations and that each individual feels like they are being supported and that you really are driving towards the same goal? How do you drive that alignment within the culture? And it can't just be the culture of the sales team in a silo. It has to be the culture of the company and how it operates. And that's where the other stakeholders in the business really can be influential and drive that aligned culture and communication.
so I love that. And you know, one of the things I've been talking with lots of CROs, I think of one of the roles of the CRO is to break down the silo between sales and marketing and enablement, right? To make sure that it's all flowing as a uniform team, right? So you have that consistency. How do you hire for culture? What do you do? You know, obviously this is a critical piece, and you part of your heart and soul. I can hear it. So when you're in the talent acquisition mindset, qualities are you looking for, not just as the individual, but will they fit in with our team?
Yeah. Yeah. And I will tell you the area that I struggled with most along those lines earlier on in my career is that fitting in with the team and fitting into the culture tended to subconsciously or consciously mean people who are in the same age demographic, that look the same, that because that's who's going to fit in, that talk about the similar things. Let's say on a team you have a lot of folks who are football fans, and so Monday mornings there's lots of chatter of football fans. Suddenly you're in an interview and somebody says, oh yeah, Sunday I went to the football game, and you think, oh, they'll fit in great. That is, I have evolved about 180 degrees from that approach over the last decade or so. To me, what I look for is proven, of course, proven results, but proven examples of work ethic. I really believe work ethic is the one thing you personally control. And so if you're not willing to bring that effort to the table, then that's not going to be a fit humbly for what I want to partner with, or the type of environment I want to be involved with. But so that work ethic to me is key. Results oriented is key. And then finally, diversity is key. So I actually want people who come from different upbringings, different walk of life, different perspectives and experiences, because I think that is additive to the culture versus just fitting in with the culture.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah, and one of the things I try to think about when we talk about diversity is, does our team match our clients as well?
That's
So
right.
the culture internally will translate to the relationships we have with our clients. So I think the more diverse uh, talent that you have, the more diverse clients you'll attract.
That's right.
So
100%. 100%.
yeah, so I absolutely love that. Kind of just to piggyback on that a little bit, talk about retention as a revenue leader. What can you do to ensure that you've got the optimal retention of your top talent?
Yeah, great question. This is going to sound, I think people pause when I say this, but I'll explain it. First and foremost, it is about the culture. It is about, frankly, in a leadership role, you do always have to be promoting the future, promoting what's next, promoting what that evolution is going to be like, and then you actually have to follow through with it and deliver on what that evolution or what that future is going to look like. So you do have to always be selling what is ahead, and top talent gets excited about what's ahead. The second piece is, and this is the part that I think people go, what does he mean? You don't always treat unequals equal. And what I mean by that is you have a top performing salesperson month after month, quarter after quarter, doing things around their comp plan, as an example, that will stretch and motivate them, that may be different than what you do for the rest of the team and their comp plan or incentives, to me is okay to do, because they are not performing equally to their peers. They're performing better than their peers. So thus you treat them in a different way. That doesn't mean you do not have the same fundamental expectations, everything from if it isn't recorded, it didn't happen sort of thing, call it CRM hygiene, to the types of meetings and the pipeline reviews and all of those things. There you have to treat the team as a whole. But what you do for that individual and how you bring them along and the time you invest in talking about their career path may wind up being even more so than you do to the average person on the team. That's what I mean about don't treat unequals equal, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's really about individualized coaching and incentives and playing to what matters most to them. So I think that's fantastic. One of the things that I think really great leaders do is coach, and you really see yourself as like a leadership coach. At least, that's how I see, when I learned about you a little bit. So discuss a coaching strategy. Again, this may be don't treat unequals equal, because so there may not be one strategy, but now that you said this, but my question in preparation was what is your coaching strategy to optimize the talent on your team?
Yeah, I do believe in putting in a foundation where the team is operating in a similar way, meaning the team is operating and understands the sales process. They understand the criteria to move from one stage to the next, and what needs to be met in order for an opportunity to advance. I believe deeply in focusing on the discovery part of the sales engagement and doing lots of training and coaching around that. When it comes to leaders, whether customer success or marketing or sales or business development leaders, I believe in doing regular leadership training sessions with the group of leaders and talking about scenarios and how do you get the team aligned around an initiative? How do you manage the people one-on-one? How do you coach people up? I believe there's a lot of fundamental, foundational things that you do consistent trainings on. It was my second week at Honor Roll, and I started weekly sales trainings for the entire team and have done that ever since. I do a bi-weekly leadership training in meeting that I started a couple of months ago, and we do that consistently. So that constant coaching and training is really important. One-on-one is where you start to tailor specific coaching to the needs of that individual. Where do they need to stretch? Where are they struggling? Where are they trying to head in their career? And how can you arm them with the skill set and the experience to get them there? So I definitely support and invest a lot of time in that one-on-one coaching, but it has to start with, hey, as a team, we have an identity. This is how we do things, and to begin to drive that consistency.
Yeah, I think that's fabulous, and I love that you're combining training and coaching. So I think
Yeah.
training alone typically doesn't work, and coaching
Right.
alone typically doesn't work. So the fact that you're bringing that together and you're consistently offering that to your team is really powerful. Well,
Yeah.
I have so enjoyed our conversation. I've learned so much. I have a couple last questions.
Yeah.
Um, what one piece of advice, because there might be a ton, what one piece of advice would you give to an upcoming sales or marketing leader as they prepare for future challenges in this industry, in the sales and marketing world?
Yeah, I think, and I always look in the mirror if I give any advice or coaching, like what did I need to hear back then, or even what do I need to hear today, right? Um, Focus on authentic relationships and focus on driving results in your current situation. People always worry about whether they're going to get that promotion that they feel like they deserve, or how they're going to move up the ranks, or the grass may be greener somewhere else, or all those type of things. Just focus on delivering great results in your current role. And if you don't have a couple today, surround yourself, seek out a couple of mentors that are further along the path and down the path that you also want to head down. That to me is just invaluable. If it wasn't for a couple of key mentors in my career, there is no way I would have advanced my career in the way I did. And I was very fortunate for that. But I get the pleasure and opportunity to mentor a number of sales leaders. And I always start with two things. One, focus on the results of where you're at today and what you need to do to get incrementally better results. And let's unpack that. And then secondly, maybe you're leveraging me as a mentor, but find somebody else as a mentor as well. You need at least a couple of voices of coaching and mentorship around you if you genuinely want to invest in yourself and grow your career.
That's wonderful. And I really love the concept of get yourself a couple mentors, but be a mentor too.
That's right.
Yeah. So I think that's just fantastic. Mike, this has been absolutely mic dropping amazing. Like there's some really fabulous insights that you shared with us today, and I can't thank you enough. Before we wrap up, my last question is what question should I have asked you that I didn't?
Mm.
I love when I stump
Prob-
people.
Yeah, probably like the difference between like how do you forecast predictable revenue? And,
I
and
love that.
yeah, and the one comment I'll say there, and I've seen this over and over again throughout my career, people tend to this is going to be a little nerdy, by the way, but
I'll take nerdy all day, every day.
people tie sales stages, opportunity stages to forecasting. So if something moves to, it goes from demo completed to contract sent or proposal sent. They go, oh, that goes from 40% to 60% probability sort of thing. And those sales stages tend to be sales activities, not aligned to the buying process. So sending a proposal does not mean that the buyer is further along in their decision-making process. It just means a sales rep said, oh, I think I should send them a pricing proposal. It's just a sales activity. So first, get your sales stages to align to the buying journey, not sales rep activities. That's the first thing I would say. Secondly, decouple the sales stages from separate forecasting stages. Forecasting the revenue is different than how the pipeline stage is progressing. Sometimes they are in alignment, many times they are not. So come up with a separate methodology specific for forecasting the revenue. And that would be my advice to anybody who's trying to figure out how to be able to predict or forecast revenue to their organization.
So I said that was my last question, but now you sparked another question, so I'm just going to
Yeah.
get one deeper. I love that. Can you give us one example of a data point that can help us forecast better?
Yeah, to me, if give you a great example, being told verbally or email, but being told you are the vendor of choice is one forecasting criteria for a later stage forecast. But with that also has to be coupled, and I know how the rest of the process goes. I know that they have typically a 45-day procurement process, or I know that my stakeholder needs to present this at the next board meeting and get board approval, or I know how their legal review process goes. Like, it is both being told specifically you are vendor of choice, not just inferred, not just the sales rep thinks we're vendor of choice, but you have been told, and you have had the conversation to understand how we get to a contract being executed. And a lot of times that starts with, when do you, the customer, need to be live with the solution? And let's back from that. But the being told you're vendor of choice typically does not show up in a pipeline stage. To me, that shows up in a forecasting stage. I think that's just one example of many around forecasting versus pipeline.
Would you ever put that as a filter in a CRM?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
We build out our CRM with both the pipeline stages, a drop down, what pipeline stage are they in? It has the criteria box you have to check for each stage and so on, but it's the exact same structure in the CRM and separate around forecasting stage.
Oh, I think that's great. I haven't heard that, and I think that's amazing. And I think forecasting is one of the most wrongly defined data point in all of sales. So I think
Right.
that's awesome. I could talk to you all day, Mike. You are amazing. Thank you so much. If folks would want to get a hold of you, what would you recommend?
Yeah, they can. I'll throw out my LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
It's just Michael Brower, and please reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to connect, and love learning from others and providing value any way I can.
This was amazing. Thank you so much. And to all our listeners, when you're out and about, don't forget to make your sales social.
Don't miss an episode. Visit socialsaleslink.com/podcast. Leave a review down below. Tell us what you think, what you learned, and what you want to hear from us next. Register for free resources at linkedinlibrary.com. You can also listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Play. Visit our website, socialsaleslink.com, for more information.